Hello everybody and welcome back to this week's video. This week I'm rereading the Hunger Games trilogy in preparation for Sunrise on the Reaping. I am so excited. I can't remember the last time I was this excited for a book. I didn't realise till now how much I love Hamish and I want his backstory so bad. But this should be interesting because I love the original trilogy. I do not care for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Is that controversial? Probably, but I didn't enjoy reading it. I haven't watched the film. Maybe I'll watch the film, and if I enjoy the film, I'll reread the book as well. But I'm running out of time, and I can't risk putting myself in a slump by reading a book I'm not interested in. So I'm sticking to the original trilogy for today. It is actually it's Sunday, and that means I've got 3 days, including today, until Sunrise on the Reaping comes out, to read 3 books. And I know this is possible because the last time I read The Hunger Games, I did read each of them in one day whilst I was on holiday, but I was doing absolutely nothing else. So this should be interesting. I have spent a good 2 hours of today, I think, reading the first Hunger Games. I have finished part 1. I'm on page 159. And the way I'm going to do this is, it is going to be spoilers because these books are old. Let's face it, they are old. If you haven't read The Hunger Games, please don't watch this video because I am going to spoil it quite a lot. Because the way I'm doing it is each part of the book, because each book is split up into 3, I'm writing down my thoughts and I'm going to break it down part 1, part 2, part 3 for each 3 of the books, because I thought that was the best way to get a full perspective of the books, the best way to make me pick up on things that I'm going to need to look out for in the new book. So yeah, I think that's how I'm going to do this. And obviously I have finished part 1, so this is your warning. From this point on, I'm going to start talking spoilers, so please leave if you haven't read this book. So, obviously, The Hunger Games, it follows Katniss and Peeta, mainly Katniss, in the Hunger Games. 24 people fight to the death. There's our recap if you needed it. Having read part 1, here's what I picked up. This is kind of in the order that I picked it up in, so they're a little bit scatty with my ideas, but I love how they get straight into action. Literally, first page, boom, Reaping Day, here's what's happening. People are scared. Oh, here's Gale. This is my little sister, you know? Setup is already there. It's easy to get into, it's quick, love it. There's a mention of the meadow, and I can't remember if this is genuinely what's in the book when it finishes in Mockingjay, but definitely in the movie, obviously at the end, we see Peeta and Katniss in a meadow with their children. And I was like, that's really cool that literally chapter 1, they are setting up that meadow to be the final happy place. So I thought that was adorable. On page 39, for anyone who's gonna follow along with my commentary, I am a Peeta Mellark girly. He is one of my favourite fictional characters ever. I think he plays the games extremely well. He knows what to say, he knows what to do. So I'm obviously going to pick up on every single thing mentioned about him because he is the love of my life. Sorry to my boyfriend, but Peeta Mellark comes first, okay? I absolutely love how Peeta is this symbol of hope to Katniss. She thoroughly associates him with hope, and I highlighted, because I'm annotating them, that was the point of this. I'm annotating it, and I just thought I wanted to read this little chunk to you guys. To this day, I can never shake the connection between this boy, Peeta Mellark, and the bread that gave me hope, and the dandelion that reminded me that I was not doomed. Case closed. Team Peeta all the way. Anyone who is Team Gale, I do not understand it. I truly do not. But I just love that. And then we see dandelions be brought up again. So there's a lot of repeated, what is the word that I'm trying to say? But the connection between Peeta, Hope and dandelions is a through line throughout the whole book. As far as I'm concerned now, we are 150 pages in and this has come up about 3 times now, the dandelion thing. So absolutely love that. I'm going to keep an eye out for more of these like Peter is hope things. Obviously if you've read the books, watched the films, you know that that's the case, but it's really nice to look at it and analyze it from that perspective going in. On the topic of Peter, we have a lot of back and forth on Katniss trying to work out if he's genuinely dangerous to her, and ultimately she decides he's going to try and kill me, I need to keep my distance, which is interesting because then you also see that natural pull that she has towards him, and thinking that he's a symbol of hope, thinking that he's just genuinely a nice guy, and just like he's the only real connection she has in this game. And even in the setup to it, like the training and the opening ceremony and the interviews, he's the only real comfort she has because he's the only thing from District 12 that she's got. So I found that interesting. Obviously we get a bit of a setup for District 13 as well, which becomes much bigger later on in the series. But again, it's so cool to see how early it's set up in these books. When did I last read these? I think I read them in 2022. So it has been almost 3 years since I read these books. I don't read them often. Like Harry Potter, I read all the time, constantly got one on the go. I've got 2 on the go at the moment, which is stressing me out. But like the Hunger Games, I don't read it enough to know these things on like the back of my hand. So it's really nice to go in and pick up these smaller details early on. And then finally, for part 1 of book 1, literally the final line, because she came here with me. No. No. This is what I mean when I say Peter is so good at playing these games from the very start. Like, he knows they need something to make them unique. He needs something that's gonna make him stand out. And being in love with the girl on fire, that's gonna do it. That is gonna do it. So obviously that is our big jaw-dropping oh shit moment, that he's in love with Katniss. Is he really? Questionable. I think he is. I don't think he's in love. I think he has a crush, but I don't think he's in love with her yet. I think that very much comes within the games. And I had something else as well. Oh, I've seen a lot of people online saying that the whole thing is orchestrated around Katniss and the Capitol just trying to fuck with her. So like obviously her little sister being pulled, 1 in 1,000 chances of that happening. I cried when I read that chapter. I didn't think I would. I've never cried at that before, but I cried. Could be because I just finished watching the film Me Before You, which also makes me cry like a little baby, but I cried still. So like her little sister being pulled, she has to volunteer, like they know she's gonna do it. Teaming her up with someone that she already knows. What else? Like the Avox being someone that she saw get caught. Things like that. People think that that is all like on purpose to set up. I don't think it is. I don't think the Capitol is smart enough for that. I don't see a reason why they would specifically want Katniss. She's not made herself stand out in any way in District 12. She's just going about her day-to-day life. So as fun as that is to think about, I don't think that they've planned this all. I don't think Katniss was supposed to go in. I think Prim, if they were gonna orchestrate anything, I think it was picking Prim, or at least picking a 12-year-old girl, because they have Rue. If they had Prim, that would have been like a pairing. People could have rooted for them. It would have been the underdogs. They would have both died, but so if any part of it was planned, I would have said it was picking a 12-year-old girl. They couldn't have predicted someone was gonna volunteer. It's just too much going on, and they couldn't have then had all of the rest of it click into place after Katniss had volunteered, because there just wasn't enough time to sort that out. So that is my thoughts on Hunger Games Book 1 Part 1. Let's crack on and read Part 2, and I'll get back to you with more thoughts after that. Good morning everyone. So I finished the Hunger Games last night. Sorry if I'm a bit quiet, it's 6:30 in the morning and I've been awake since 3:30. Not reading, not doing anything productive, just awake for no reason. So, but my thoughts on part 2 of the Hunger Games. Obviously this is split into 3 sections, and the middle one is always the games. So things to mention: we've got Peter saying, "I'm more than just a piece in their games." Incredible, love that. That's a good motive throughout the whole thing. It spurs Katniss on to, you know, she sings for Rue, she makes flowers like around Rue when she dies, so that's always really cute that she like listens to his words and takes them on, actually does an action to show that she understands what he means. Peter and Katniss just have such good banter. Peter is such, like, he is the ultimate book boyfriend. I'm sorry, but he is. He just is. They have such good banter throughout the whole book, which is nice to see, because obviously it's quite a dark topic, you know, children killing each other, but that was nice. There's a lot of mention of previous victors, and I am gonna check when I start Catching Fire if everyone mentioned in this book is set up for the next book, because I think it is. Obviously Katniss has a lot of conflicting feelings towards Peter, like he bands himself in with the careers and she doesn't really know what she's doing, like what he's doing, like if this was all just a ploy to get her to be confused about him and then kill her off. So that was interesting to read. And obviously when they changed the rules and then she suddenly is like, I need to find Peter, and she doesn't know if she actually loves him or not. Like, she doesn't know how she feels about him, she just knows that he's the key to surviving. Equally in that sense, I would love to have a book of Peter's point, or maybe like a few chapters of Peter's point of view, like when he's with the careers, what is he doing, and like in that moment when he's dying and he hears the rule change, what does he think? Like, does he think Katniss is gonna find him? Does he think he's just gonna die? Would love to know that. And then skipping back a bit, obviously Katniss and Rue are just adorable. I love that dynamic, it's so sweet. Obviously Katniss seeing a lot of her sister in Rue, and like seeing a child, which is what she is, like a defenseless child who's been chucked into the games. So obviously when Rue passes, it's very sad. Weirdly didn't cry at that bit though, so don't know where I'm at emotionally with that. But then moving on to part 3, again with that banter, Mr. Peter Malark saying things like, remember, we're madly in love, so it's alright to kiss me anytime you feel like it. I would simply die if someone said that to me. I'd be gone. But then Katniss, in obviously her inner monologue, saying he smiles as if he'd be happy to lie there gazing at me forever. Stop it. Stop it. Too good, too good. I love the seamless integration of all of her backstory. Like, everything that we find out about Katniss's past is brought up so organically, it doesn't feel forced. With the example that made me think this being when she talks about her goat, Peter just asks for a happy memory, and that's what she comes up with, and I feel like it's done really well, like obviously telling what actually happened versus what she can say on TV. I mean, I do not want to lose the boy with the bread. She really, like, she needs Peter. She doesn't know it yet, but she does. We have like a through line at the very beginning all the way throughout. Katniss always says she does not want kids, which is absolutely fair enough. Like, you don't want to bring children into the world just for them to have to be entered to the Hunger Games. Valid. But obviously we know the whole story ends with her having kids with Peter, so that's like nice character progression, I guess. Like, her finally realizing that it's safe. She's with someone who is safe, in a safe environment she can bring kids into. So that's always like a nice thing to look out for. I'd be interested to see if she mentions anything like that in Catching Fire, with the whole baby plotline of that. Haymitch at the end, when he's like fighting with the is it the stylist? He's fighting with someone to make sure that Katniss doesn't get genetically changed or anything, or modified or anything the Capitol wants to do to her. he doesn't want that to happen, and I think that's really sweet. Like, Haymitch is a bit of a dick sometimes, but he's as much of a father figure to Katniss as anyone should be or could be. I think that's a really nice thing, that he is looking out for her in his own way, you know? And then at the end, obviously, Haymitch goes to hug Katniss, which is weird, and she acknowledges that's an odd thing to do, but maybe it's just because I survived, and it's actually all just a ploy to get her information about what is about to go down, because she is rebelled and the Capitol is fucking pissed about it. So again, just Haymitch looking out for her, and him acknowledging that he doesn't need to say these things to Peter because he's just in tune with it. He knows how to play the fucking game. So, but that is all of my thoughts on the first Hunger Games book. Obviously, this is a 5-star. Duh. This is incredible. And I am hopefully, if all goes to plan, I will read the entire of Catching Fire after work today. And then I've got tomorrow off, so I plan to read Mockingjay first thing in the morning, and then by the time I finish that, I should have my copy of Sunrise on the Reaper, which will not be in this video because it obviously needs to be spoiler free, so that will be in next week's video hopefully. But that's the plan. In the next 2 days I should finish the Hunger Games series. So let's cut to me reading Catching Fire, and I will get back to you hopefully with part 1's thoughts, because I should have sectioned this out better, but I kept reading and I got really tired, so then I didn't want to film, so I finished the book without doing an update. But let's read Catching on Fire, and I will get back to you when I finish up part 1. So I started Catching Fire and I made it to the end of part 1. A lot happened in this chapter. I wrote down, like, I've got a whole page of notes just on this, like, part of the book. I said chapter, I meant part. So let's get straight into it, because I seem to have a lot to talk about with this one. So the first thing I wrote down was, I love that Greasy Say started a collection to sponsor Katniss and Peter. That's so sweet. I always forget that detail, but that's like a really, like, it shows how much of a connection Katniss has to her community in District 12. Obviously it's quite sad having Peter and Katniss be so distant not all of a sudden, like they fake break up at the end of the last book, if that makes sense. So that's always sad to hear about, because, like, Peter's a nice person. He really likes Katniss. Like, it's just sad. There was obviously some snake-like metaphors going on with snow, which obviously ties into Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which part of me was like, do I want to read that next? I feel like it would be a good one to read between Catching Fire and Mockingjay, but I don't think I've got enough time this week to read it, because it is now the 18th. Sunrise on the Reaping has been released, and Waterstones has not dispatched my order. They're still processing it. I ordered it in October last year and I expected it to be here today. It's not even dispatched. So I've ended up cancelling my order with Waterstones, because, like, I think they're having an issue or something, which is a shame, because it was going to be a special edition that I was getting. And I've ordered the regular edition from Amazon to arrive this Saturday, which is annoying, but at least I'll get the copy. I think with Waterstones they wanted to cancel my order. Like, they kept saying, cancel, do you want to cancel it? So it's annoying, but I'm getting it, and it was £10 cheaper on Amazon, which is always great, so that was good. Just a thought that I had whilst I was reading this, like, Cinna gets mentioned, obviously. I think Cinna is grooming Katniss. Like, he's using her to promote a political agenda that she's not included on. Like, he was pushing his agenda before she was on board with it. And, like, phone calls with her. Like, she's 16. It's dodgy. It's dodgy behaviour. But obviously the whole premise of the book is dodgy behaviour. But that didn't sit well with me. I like Cinna, but the more I read it, the more I'm like, actually, no. Do I like Cinna? Is he kind of a bad person? I think he might be. There was a line that said, this is obviously from Katniss's point of view, singing, which I wouldn't do for the Capitol in a million years. Obviously, in the next book, she's going to sing for the Capitol. So that was good. There's a lot of foreshadowing in these books. I didn't realise how, like, well set up they all are for each other, but it makes sense. This is, like, a very well put together series. So that was just nice to see. I don't think any of this is very well connected, me saying it though, like out loud. This is just like a stream of things I picked up as I was reading. So there was a line about the steadiness that Peter brings. I think that is a good thing to mention, because obviously when talking about Gale, it's never mentioned that he's like steady and actually like a good constant to have around. He's very I guess hot and cold is maybe how I would say it about Gale. So another point to Peter there, he's like actually a person you would want to stay with. Haymage's whole thing about, you know, this never ends, they're always going to be following you, they're always going to be watching you, and they're always going to want an update about the star-crossed lovers, Peter and Katniss. So that was one of my favourite moments in the movies, actually. So I'm kind of glad that that's still like a good moment in the book as well. Yeah, I love the Hunger Games. I'm falling in love with it all over again doing this and actually talking about it. So the next point I had was Peter apologising for how he acted after the games, because obviously then he realised that it was all for show. Katniss didn't really love him, or doesn't seem to really love him. And even Snow points out to her, he says, when did he notice your indifference to him? And I think that is a good way to put it. Like, Katniss isn't thinking about romance. She's being forced to think about it, but she's not actively interested in it. She just wants to survive, and that's it for the whole book series. Like, Gale included, it's all survival to her. She doesn't actually want a romance with anyone. So, but Peter apologising for how he behaved and the things he said, I think was very mature of him. Again, he's 16. This is like big conversations to be having at the age of 16. So that was cute. Oh, the whole bit with, you know, you die for me, but I don't know your favorite color. That whole section is adorable. And saying orange like the sunset. I love the setup to the games in this book. Even with the film, like if I watch the film, I tend to watch half of it because I really like the bits before the games. What else? Oh, the speech in District 11 about I didn't know Thresh, but he saved my life, and then I did know Rue. That, it made me cry. I cry. Cupid cries a lot is kind of my vibe, and that just, it really got to me. I thought that was really beautifully done. And again, Katniss speaking from the heart. Like, obviously there's the punishment after that, and obviously someone gets shot for doing the whole three finger thing. So yeah, that was just a beautiful chapter, I think. Really well done. Oh, I hadn't picked up on this in any of my other reads of this, but Peter actually says to Katniss that the rebellion is a good idea. He wants the rebellion to happen before Katniss even admits that she wants it to happen. So I thought that was interesting that Peter is so down for it so early on. And we obviously meet Plutarch Heavensby in this bit. He is the game maker, so he designs the arena for this year's games. And he shows Katniss a watch that he's got that briefly shows the Mockingjay, which is her symbol. And then it disappears. I thought, I've never picked up on that either, because obviously he's a spy for the rebels. So I thought that was a good thing, and the way Katniss writes it off is so cleverly done as well, because the Mockingjay is a really big fashion thing in the capital thanks to her, and she just thinks, oh, it's an expensive watch, obviously no one else is going to have one of these, he's clearly got it custom made. So that was, like, she wrote it off in her mind very well. What else have we got? Obviously we have the section where Gale is getting whipped for trespassing, hunting on capital land. And we have the whole bit of Katniss and Peter are walking into the square, and Peter realises what's happening first, and he tries to make Katniss go home. He tries to stop her from seeing what she's about to see. And again, just Peter is the best. Peter is the best character ever. I love him so much. He's so good. And we get Katniss stepping in and getting whipped in the face, trying to protect Gale, which is, it makes sense why she does it, But the fact that it then leads to her going, no, actually, I love Gale. I want to be with Gale. No, you don't. You just feel sorry for him. He's injured. You feel sorry for him. That's all. So that bit pissed me off. What else? Obviously, like, Gale has his good sides. Like, again, the rebellion, I agree, needs to happen, and he's very on board with that. He's pushing Katniss to be the leader of the rebellion. But I just don't like him as a person. So I'm sorry if I shit on Gale a lot in this video, but I don't like him. What else do we have? Oh, Haymitch coming to Katniss's defense. I always love when Haymitch steps up for Katniss. He's like, I don't know, I don't want to say a dad figure, but he kind of is. Which ties in nicely to my next point of Effie saying that Haymitch should give Katniss away at the wedding. Well, first of all, the wedding in general, haven't mentioned that. Again, genius move being made here, like, get married, can't deny that you're in love then. But yeah, the idea of Haymitch giving Katniss away was just so sweet. I love that for both of them. I think that's adorable, and I think that is what would have happened. Katniss and her mum are very distant to each other, which is fair enough because her mum is obviously, she shut down after Katniss's dad died. She hasn't stepped up as a mum until Katniss goes into the games, and at that point she's not stepping up for Katniss, she's stepping up for Prim. She's not being a mum to Katniss, she's being a mum to Prim. So I just love the whole dynamic with Katniss and Haymitch. I love it so much. I think that's everything for part 1, so I'm gonna go and read part 2 and I will get back to you with more thoughts. And I know shit's about to go down, so I'll see you then. I have finished part 2 of Catching Fire. This part is called The Quell because obviously it follows the quarter quell being announced. And a lot of these chapters have a lot of focus on the uprisings happening in other districts and Katniss realising that she's become this symbol of a rebellion, even though she didn't really intend to. She didn't really think that through. So I'm going to start with 2 characters that get introduced. Bonnie and Twill. They are from District 8. Their factory they work in exploded, and so everyone in the district assumes that they are dead, and because of that they've got an opportunity to escape. And the primary thing I thought when reading that is their story is really sad. I feel like they should be more upset about this because Twill's husband dies in this explosion and the entirety of Bonnie's family dies. They're all each other have got now. But they ran into Katniss in the field near District 12 whilst trying to get to District 13 under hope that something is there. There's still people there, that even though it was completely decimated, like, is it 70-ish years ago, that something is there. They've gone underground, there's people there, there's a whole movement happening in District 13. But yeah, so they are primarily there, I believe, to A, sow the seeds of District 13 existing for the next book, and B, explaining the uprising that happened in District 8 and how Katniss and Peter getting engaged has been the perfect cover-up for them to have done this in that district. So when they announce that they're engaged, obviously it's cause for celebration, so everyone can be out in the street, and that is when they strike. That's when they start this rebellion. They start fighting the peacekeepers and causing a load of trouble. So that was the first bit I mentioned. What else have I got? Oh, I love the detail that the way they're telling that District 13 might still be there is the footage the Capitol uses when they talk about District 13 is always the same, and there is a mockingjay in the corner of the frame. So we've got obviously more of that mockingjay symbolism, and I find it very coincidental that that would be the case. But you know, Suzanne Collins is a genius, so obviously she knew what she was doing when she was writing all of this, and it's incredible to see all of this setup happening. Then we've got more districts that are possibly out of commission, possibly in an uprising situation. We get Katniss's prep team mentioning that they're not getting any, I think it was shrimps or something that they mentioned they weren't getting, which indicates that District 4, the fishing district, is rebelling because they're not providing the capital with what they collect. And then we have, I think it's Hamage confirms that District 3, 7 and 11 are also rebelling. So at that point you've got like 5 out of 12 districts all in chaos mode. So that's like a lot to have all happened so quickly, like in a few months. I think that's really impressive that that is the case. Like, it's gone quite quickly, but you know, I've never been in an uprising, so I don't know if it is like that sort of thing, like a snap, it happens. Then obviously the quarter quell gets announced and we get a run over of the other quarter quells that have happened. So for the 25th, and I think this is the harshest one by far, is that the people in the district have to vote for who they want to send into the games. They have to vote for which child they want to send to their death. That's horrendous. That's abhorrent behaviour. I hate that. Then the 50th quarter quell obviously is Hamage's games. So we get a bit of backstory for him in this chapter, this segment as well, which doesn't count as spoilers for Sunrise on the Reaping, because obviously it's been told in Catching Fire, so I'm happy to talk about that. So obviously the 50th quarter quell, there were double the amount of tributes in the games, and I'll skip down to what I've said about Hamage's games. So obviously Katniss and Peeta eventually watch Hamage's games to see what a quarter quell is like, and what they see is Hamage allying with Maisie Lee Donna, who is one of the other District 12 tributes, and Katniss's mum's friend, which is really sweet. And there's this symmetry between Hamage holding Maisie Lee's hand as she dies, and Katniss singing to Rue as she dies. I just muddled up Prim and Rue and just popped them right together there. That was funny. So I thought that was really sweet. I love seeing Hamage acting like an actual person instead of just the assumption that he's always drunk and enraged. So that's always nice to read. And then obviously the 75th quarter quell, which is what this book follows, is everyone in the games will have already won a Hunger Games. It's the pool of people to pick from is just the existing victors, and I confidently believe that this is planned. That is not what was written at the start of the Hunger Games. This is something that Snow has devised because he wants Katniss to die. That is so clear. I don't know how anyone could ever not think that. Then we've got some more quotes from Katniss and Hamage. This is a conversation they have because they're discussing if Peeta's name gets picked, Hamage would volunteer. Like, the whole goal for them is protect Peeta. And Katniss says, it'll be bad for you in the arena knowing everyone. And Hamage says, I think we can count on it being unbearable wherever I am. So Hamage clearly knows that there's something bigger going on here. Following on from that, we've then got Peeta being so determined and focused on training and learning how to be the best they possibly can. So that's good. Slight change in lighting because I had to go out and I didn't end up finishing reading what I'd written down. So continuing on with part 2 of Catching Fire, the next thing I wrote down was Cecilia from District 8, who gets raped for this Hunger Games. Like, as she's being chosen, she's got 3 kids clinging to her. I just thought that was devastating. Like, the thought of going into the arena, like, obviously it's devastating when kids go in, but the thought of a mother going in when she's got 3 kids depending on her, that was just so sad to me. Also, I'm so sorry, none of these thoughts are very well, like, not well put together, but they're all very, like, scattered because they are literally written in the order that I read them in. So the next bit I've got is Peeta tells Katniss to go to bed because she's, like, obviously tired, stressed, and just needs a rest. And she thinks to herself, I can't handle the nightmares, not without you. And I just thought that's so sweet, that even though she still isn't admitting to herself that she's in love with this boy, that she clearly, like, there's a part of her that knows that he is needed for her inner peace. And again, just pulling out the whole motif of Peeta being peace to Katniss is just lovely. And then we've got a prep team, so all the people that get her ready for all of these public events and appearances. being so attached to her and just like sobbing the whole time. They're trying to get her ready because they don't want her to die, but they know it's going to happen. That is just devastating. Again, this whole book is devastating. The whole series is devastating to me. We've got Darius, don't know how to say his name, who is one of the peacekeepers in District 12 and was like quite close with Katniss. She would sell game to him and stuff, being the new Avox, so the person who's had their tongue cut out and forced to serve her in the capital. I thought that was awful, but obviously a planned move from Snow there that's clearly being done to torture Katniss. And then getting into when they start training for the Hunger Games, we've got Wyrus and Beatty from District 3, obviously very tech savvy, and they set up very nicely Katniss being able to identify a force field by pointing out that the game makers, is that what they're called? Game makers? Are now behind a force field in the training centre. So that was really good setup for obviously the end of the book. And then when they have to do the private session where they show off their skills to these game makers and get a score, Peter painting Rue to hold the capital and the people that do the games responsible for the death of an innocent child. Incredible. He's the only man ever, as far as I'm concerned, only man ever. And I thought this was a good setup for him to do and show them that he cares about these innocent children, for him to then, obviously this is jumping forward a teeny bit, but for him to then drop the "if it weren't for the baby" in his interview, because it shows that, you know, he likes kids, he wants a kid, could be a dad. But obviously it's still a bit drastic to me because they're still like, what, 16, 17, and they're getting married, pretending that they're having a child together. It's just a lot. Like, if I was in the capital, I would be questioning this behaviour. It doesn't sound right to me. Peter, oh my god, more of Peter just being my favourite person in the whole universe, saying, "I just want to spend every possible minute of the rest of my life with you." Stop it. I'm gonna cry so hard. That is just so sweet. I love him so much. And then they have a picnic on the roof because they've got a day off together. Again, adorable. Obviously that "if it weren't for the baby" thing, incredible. I said this in the first book, but Peter knows how to play this game. He knows how to get people on his side, and he knows how to try and manipulate the capital into not being so harsh. Obviously at the end of the interviews with Caesar Flickerman, all of the tributes line up at the end and they hold hands and they stand as one, which is unheard of, so that is always really nice. But obviously if you've read the series, which I really hope you have, because this is very spoilery, I'm literally telling you beat for beat everything that happens, but it's really telling of the fact that obviously there's been negotiations with everyone in the games, between like Plutarch, and I believe Haymitch is involved as well, about how Katniss is our saviour. She's the Mockingjay, she's the symbol of the rebellion, we need her to live. And I think this is showing that they all stand as one and all believe Katniss needs to live. And obviously to end it off, we've got Haymitch saying, "Remember who the enemy is," which is a vital bit of advice there, because obviously that is what spurs Katniss to take the whole games down. So those are my thoughts about part 2. I'm now going to read part 3. Oh, excuse me. And yeah, I'm excited. I can't remember, because it looks like quite a short chunk of the book, to be fair, so I can't remember quite how the pacing is in this. I remember the movie really well because I've seen that so many times, but this is only like my 3rd time reading Catching Fire. So interested to see how that plays out. I'll be interested to see if I still have so much to write down. But I will see you when I finish the book. I have finished Catching Fire and I have actually started Mockingjay as well. I thought it was fun to do that because I just refreshed my hair, and the colours, where's my book? The colour that I've just put in my hair matches the book like almost perfectly, so I thought that was funny. But my thoughts, there's quite a lot of them for Catching Fire, not a lot for Mockingjay. I've always said Mockingjay is my least favourite of the books and Catching Fire is my favourite, so I figured this is how it would pan out. So with Catching Fire Part 3, it obviously in the arena now. I think the belts being flotation devices is genius. That's just like, whoever designed the suits, very clever. I enjoyed that. We've got Katniss admitting and noting that everyone else seems to have noticed that Peter is deep down a much better person than anyone else that has ever been in these games. We've got Peter walking into the force field, or like he hits it with his sword, I think, and he like flings backwards, and he dies, and Finnick resurrects him, and you've got Katniss obviously going, oh, I don't trust Finnick, what if he's just killing Peter quicker, and panicking about that. Obviously Finnick resurrects him, resuscitates him, I think is the word that I'm looking for, finally earning Katniss's trust, and Peter immediately making a joke about it. He's just the cutest person. How many times am I going to compliment a fictional fucking character in this video? I don't need to say it again, but just in case anyone else is in doubt, I love Peter Malark. I love him. I've noted here Katniss obviously has incredible instincts. She figures out the fog is dangerous. Like, she has an inkling it's dangerous and then obviously feels it and realises, yep, I'm right. So that's good. The inclusion that the fog actually starts targeting your nervous system and you start like spasming, you lose control of your arms, you can't do anything, is terrifying. That is horrendous. I'm so glad that isn't included in the films, because I don't think I could watch that. That's awful. I've got Mags, the old lady from District 4 who volunteers to go in the arena instead of Annie, sacrificing herself to save Peter basically and Katniss, was obviously very sad, and Finnick's reaction to that is so upsetting. I've written here the monkeys are terrifying. No need to elaborate on that. We've got, I think she's from District 6 maybe, the Morphling sacrifices herself for Peter, obviously launches in front of him to stop him from getting attacked by a monkey, and this obviously spurs Katniss on to think, well, why is everyone sacrificing themselves for us? Like, what do they know that we don't? So again, you've got Katniss's instincts being like, okay, something's going on here that we're not clued in on. What else do we have? Oh, and then Peter just talking about paints and colours with this Morphling, because she does like camouflage, I believe, so she's into the art side of things as well. Peter just talking about it and keeping her distracted whilst she dies was just so sweet. We've got, obviously then they find Joanna, Beetee and Wyrus on the beach, and Joanna says, who do you think got them out of that bleeding jungle for you? And this again ticks Katniss off that something's going on here. They're working with us, all for us, but doesn't really ask anything of it. I thought that was weird. I would be like, what do you mean? Elaborate on that point, please, Joanna. What else do we have? Obviously, Wyrus is just saying TikTok all the time. And Joanna's getting pissed off of her about that because it's annoying. I'd find it annoying. But Katniss susses out that she's trying to tell everybody that this arena is a clock. I love that detail. I forgot, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last bit, but I forgot that Plutarch is like obviously hinting with his clock about the arena. So I thought that was obviously a very clever inclusion for Wyrus. Obviously is very intuitive and intelligent, so she would figure it out, and then Katniss, I think, is, yeah, the only person that would then suss out what she's going on about, the only person who'd put two and two together about why she's saying TikTok. We've got then the event where we've got obviously Katniss and her allies, you've got the careers all on the cornucopia, and the game maker spin it around, so it causes a bunch of obviously disorientation. They all fling off, some of them die, and Katniss diving into the water to make sure she gets this wire for Beetee, because she realizes it's important. he needs this for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I have a good feeling we need this. And jumps in to get it for him. Oh my god, every single chunk of this arena, everything that happens in it is genuinely the worst thing I can think of. Like, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and the Jabberjays are just so horrible. The fact that you obviously are being tricked into thinking you can hear your loved ones suffering, but then B, the fact that that segment of the arena gets like barricaded off, you can't get out, you can see the others trying to get to you and trying to help you, but you cannot reach them. Oh, it's just horrible. And I like, even thinking about Peter, obviously it's horrible for Katniss, but thinking about Peter having to watch Katniss have a fucking breakdown and not be able to do anything, it's just horrible for everybody involved. And then Peter, when she finally gets out, being able to talk her down from thinking that they're torturing her sister and all of her loved ones, and being like, no, what stage are we at? Right, so you understand we've made it to the point where they're going to interview your family, and who's the first person they're going to go to? Your little sister. So they've got her voice on tape, and they are using technology to make it sound like she's being tortured. Like, you need to calm the fuck down. So I realise as this video goes on, I'm swearing quite a bit more than I intended to, but I'm passionate about catching fire specifically. So we have then got Joanna obviously kind of taking the piss a bit and just mocking the Capitol and saying like, oh, don't need another rebellion, do we? And they all just kind of don't care. They're like, oh, we're gonna die in here anyway, you might as well say stuff like that. Oh my god, the entire conversation between Peter and Katniss, in the film it happens on the beach. I cannot remember if it happens on the beach in the book, but I think it does. But him saying, you're my whole life, you know, if you die I would never be happy again, just makes me want to cry. And him saying, no one needs me, you've got people that need you, nobody needs me. And Katniss going, I do, I need you. Did make me cry. Don't think I got that on film, but it just absolutely, that gutted me. And Katniss, obviously she doesn't want kids of her own, she wants Peter to live, and she's imagining a place where Peter's child could be safe. That's just, I love them so much. I don't even care if they don't love each other in a romantic fashion, but just their bond together, I know it's a trauma bond, but their bond together is just so special. I love it so much. We've got Peter giving Katniss a pearl, which obviously she then keeps with her and is like something that calms her down in the next book. And obviously referencing Effie getting the information wrong, saying, you know, if you squish a lump of coal, if you put enough pressure on a lump of coal, it will turn into a pearl. That's just not true. It's a call back to a conversation they had in book 1. And then we get into Beatty's plan to use his wire, wrap it around the tree that gets like lightninged, and pop the rest of the wire in the water, so anyone on the beach is going to get electrocuted. Very clever plan. Obviously derails a little bit because Katniss, well, everything starts going wrong basically. But we've got, again, I don't know if this is said in Catching Fire, it must be in Catching Fire, but they're saying that the sponsor gifts that they get sent are what is indicating when they need to do this plan so that they can be rescued by District 13. So you've got, I think it's, what district your gift is from is the day, so they get stuff from District 3, so it's day 3 that this is going to happen, and then how many of the thing they get is what time to do it, so they get sent 24, I think it's like bread rolls or buns or something, so they're saying at midnight on day 3 we're going to come get you. And then obviously Katniss is freaking out, she can't find Peter, they've been separated, and she thinks everybody's turned against them and they're all going to try and kill her and him, from Joanna obviously cutting Katniss's arm. But what she doesn't realise is Joanna is taking out her tracker so the Capitol can't find her anymore, which again, extremely clever. I don't think Joanna would have come up with that herself, but if she did, props to her, that is incredibly clever. And obviously Katniss then hears Haymitch before the game saying, remember who the enemy is, and she thinks, I get it now, I get it, and she shoots an arrow into the dome of the arena and electrocutes the arena, causing it all to just crumble down, the games to black out and everything to happen. So yeah, that is that's just, what a climax to a book. How do you top that? You can't. You cannot get better than that. And then going on even more, even in agonizing pain when she wakes up and she's been rescued, all she's thinking about is, I need to find Peter, I need to make sure he's okay. Even going so far as to say, if we've been captured by the Capitol, I need to kill him before they do, because she knows that she will kill him quicker and the pain will be over quicker than if the Capitol get him and start torturing him. Devastating stuff. And then Katniss attacking Haymitch for not rescuing Peter, because obviously they had a plan. They agreed, if you have to prioritise one of us, prioritise Peter. So, but Haymitch is obviously clued in on more of the bigger plan, that they need Katniss to be this symbol of rebellion for them. And then obviously we've got Finnick. This genuinely upsets me. I love Finnick as a character as well. I think he's just very not pure, what am I trying to say? He's just very likable, which I know is like the entire point of his character. Because obviously in the Capitol they just like him for his good looks, but in the book there is obviously a lot more to him. He's got incredible banter with Katniss. He's just funny. There's so many moments where Katniss has these moments with Peter and with Finnick where she goes, for a moment I forget I'm in the games and I feel actually happy for once, and this is genuinely fun. So I think again Finnick is a really good character. But him saying that he wishes they were all dead, like all of his loved ones, all of the tributes, he wished they'd all just died, because then they wouldn't have to face what's coming. And that is entirely fair. If I was in his situation, I too would wish everyone I loved was dead and that I was dead too, because how you just don't know how it's going to turn out. You just know it's going to be a terrible feat to get to the end of this. So I'm with him. I think that death would be preferable to having to fight in an uprising and potentially losing everyone you love one by one, and in front of you. So, and then obviously we have the quite literal bomb of District 12 has been bombed, and absolute banger of a final line to this book. Gale saying, Katniss, there is no District 12. Wow, what a way to end the book. Just incredible. I love Catching Fire. It is one of my favourite books, just in general. I think really it's definitely my favourite book in the Hunger Games series by far. You know, hopefully Sunrise on the Reaping could maybe take that. I'm so excited to read that. But yes, obviously it's a 5-star. Do we need to be told that? Absolutely not. I think it's obvious. And I have now started reading Mockingjay, which, as I said, is my least favourite of the series. Maybe other than Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I don't really like that book, but I've only read that once, whereas Mockingjay I've read it, I think, twice. So this will be my 3rd time reading it. But let's get into part 1 of Mockingjay. So I have, bearing in mind, I wrote down 2 full pages about the final part of Catching Fire. That is all I wrote for Mockingjay part 1. So I'll just move my camera, whoopsies. My thoughts on Mockingjay part 1, again, it's all disjointed because I'm just writing things as I read them. You've got Katniss seeing District 12 and the state it's in. Obviously it's all rubble, there's dead bodies everywhere, and just going around thinking, yep, I killed you, I killed you, I killed you, because indirectly her actions in the Hunger Games and towards the Capitol are what has caused the bombing to happen. So she's blaming herself for all of these deaths, which I can see why she's doing it, but I maybe wouldn't jump to that conclusion myself. But she's got PTSD, she's got this massive mental weight being put onto her, she's got all of her physical ailments as well. So and then to make it all worse, she watches Peter's interview with Caesar Flickerman, where he looks fine, he looks healthy, and he's defending Katniss, as he always does. Even when he's been captured by the Capitol, he's definitely being held hostage. All he's thinking is, I need to defend Katniss. She didn't do this on purpose. I know her. She didn't know what was happening. So very sweet. We've obviously got Katniss realising that the games are still on and the arena is just the entire of Panem now. Like, there's not 24 players anymore. The players are everybody in Panem. So that is obviously a big hit for her to take. Then we see her prep team is being held hostage and being tortured by on Coin's orders, and this is the first indication Katniss has that Coin cannot be trusted. She is just as bad as Snow, which obviously becomes a huge point in this book. We've got Gale saying, why are you defending these people from the capital? They're just as bad as everyone else in the capital. And not realizing that these people, no matter where they're from, they mean something to Katniss. Then they're not these horrible monsters that he thinks they are. They just don't know any better. They're just stupid, is what Katniss says. And again, this is just so sweet. So Octavia is obviously very she's one of the prep team. I don't think I've mentioned her yet before, but she's obviously scared. She's alone. This is a completely new environment to her. She's obviously used to the capital luxuries, not District 13's very strict rations. And Gale's little sister Posey, trying to like help her out. She sits with her at dinner and goes, oh, you're green, are you not feeling well? And Octavia explaining it's a capital thing, like it's a beauty thing, and she just goes, oh, I think you'd look really pretty in any colour. Like, that is just so sweet. I love the innocence that Posey still has, because we see Katniss's sister Prim obviously grows out of that innocence extremely quickly. The difference between book 1 and book 3 for Prim is immense, and it's only been 1 year. Like, these books only take place over the course of about a year and a half, I think. So that's obviously great. Not great, but storytelling wise, very impressive. And then when Katniss finally accepts the role to be the Mockingjay, this symbol, they do what they want to her and have her say what they want, she looks at herself in the mirror and she doesn't recognize who she is. She's got this like masses of makeup on, making her look like this 35-year-old woman being sexified, when actually she's 17. She's a child, and she doesn't recognize herself, which is upsetting. Most of this book is upsetting, let's be real. And we've got Katniss saying, I was the Mockingjay long before I accepted the role, when she sees all the people in District 8 and how they react to seeing her like she is this saviour figure. And then she visits District 12 with Gale, and they're filming her there as well, and she sings the Hanging Tree song, which obviously we now know from A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not the case that song is about Snow? I'm pretty sure it is. If not, it's definitely to do with Lucy Gray, who is the main character in that book if you haven't read it. And obviously for Snow having to see this enemy, this massive threat to his position of power, singing a song that links back to his former like love interest, question mark, this former ally he had who means so much to him and did eventually leave him. So that must have been hard for him as well. And then finally, what I've written here is, in this propaganda piece she's putting together, she tells Peter, you know, your family, we've not heard from them since the bombing, they're likely dead, and you're calling for a ceasefire, but nobody is left to hear what you're saying. And I think that's really powerful in saying that, you know, call for a ceasefire all you want, but the killing's already happened. All the people that would want to hear you say that, they don't exist anymore. You're just saying this to people that do not care what you're saying. So that is my thoughts on Catching Fire Part 3 and Mockingjay Part 1. I'm gonna go and I'm probably gonna finish Mockingjay and get back to you with all my thoughts on that. This is gonna be such a long video. I'm pretty sure everything I've done so far has been over 20 minutes long. This is mental. So I will see you when I finish the book. I have finished Mockingjay. I literally just finished it and I've just stopped crying, because the end of this book, it was like hit after hit after hit of things that made me cry. But I have things to say about part 2 and part 3, because obviously I didn't do an update for part 2. Also, I've realised that this video is going to be like over an hour long, so I'm going to take out any of the chunks of me literally just like time lapses of me reading, just to try and slim it down a bit, because I don't know if my phone can tolerate trying to upload a really long video like that. So soz about that, but let's get into this. So again, very disjointed thoughts, but we're just going to go through them. So we've got no one caring about Peter being attacked by Snow on TV and bleeding after he warned them of a District 13 attack. That
That is so brutal. Like, the only people that really care are Haymitch and Katniss. And it was like Haymitch saying, you don't know him, we do. That was a warning. He's doing this for us. So that was obviously really upsetting. I don't know any other word to use but that. Also, sorry, I'm literally so snivelly now that I've cried about this book, so that's kind of gross. But we've got Plutarch telling Katniss to hide her emotions in front of everyone during the lockdown for the attack, which is just so unfair. Like, I know she's meant to be the symbol of rebellion, but these people know her. Like, most of them are from District 12. They know the girl that, you know, broke down protecting her sister, you know. So I just found that really harsh of him to say. We've got her bonding with Finnick during the attack because obviously they've both got this PTSD from being in the games. They've both got loved ones that are in the capital being tortured for all they know. And you've got Finnick seeing that Katniss really does love Peter, and the proof of that for him being when Peter died and her reaction to that in the Quarter Quell, obviously. Gale just being the biggest loser on planet Earth and getting jealous over Finnick. Like, get over yourself, Gale. She's never gonna love you if you keep acting like a fucking child. Sorry, but no. We've got roses obviously continually being used to unhinge Katniss. We've got the roses being left in her house in District 12 that she finds and doesn't tell anyone about. And then after this bombing of District 13, there's roses being left to obviously show that Snow knows she's there. Trying to unhinge him. Katniss, bless, saying the only person I truly want to comfort me is Haymitch because he loves Peter too. I love the connection between Haymitch and Katniss. They are so sweet together. And again, this is something I feel like Sunrise on the Reaping is gonna deepen and absolutely fucking annihilate me with, but I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to go into that book today, but I'm going to, because I've waited long enough. It's now Friday. It came out on Tuesday and I haven't touched it. Haven't touched the book. So I need to read it. We have got Katniss realising the capital relies on all of the districts for everything. So obviously if you cut off their resources and you make the district stop giving the capital stuff, the capital is going to fall. And that is what Snow meant when he told her that the capital is a fragile structure, fragile system. I don't know what he said exactly, but he says it's fragile and that is what he means. Oh, and then we have the whole section of Finnick revealing all the secrets that he's gained from people, and like Snow prostituting these children that have won the games. The secrets that Finnick mentions include incest, blackmail, and arson. I don't want to know. And obviously he reveals that Snow has been poisoning people for years to remain in power. And to make himself look less suspicious, he poisons himself as well, which is why he always smells like there's blood on his breath, because he's having to cough up blood and stuff from taking poison. Obviously, there's more sprinklings of Haymitch's story. I won't mention them because obviously that's gonna all be revealed in Sunrise on the Reaping. Oh yeah, and then they get Peter from the capital, and he's been hijacked. They've tampered with his memories, so he doesn't know what's real and what's fake anymore. And obviously he attacks Katniss, which I thought that was so well done. The role reversal of Katniss just wanting to see Peter, make sure he's okay, and Peter being violent. Because obviously in the first book, a lot of what happened was Katniss being moderately violent towards Peter, and Peter just wanting to know she's okay. We have the setup of Gale and Beatty creating these bombs and this idea to send in a first round of bombs that look like they're from the capital, and then send in a second round that look like they're going to be like helpful, treating people, but actually it's just more bombs that blow up the people trying to help. And obviously this is a massive indicator that Gale does not care for human life. He wants revenge on the capital. He doesn't care who he has to kill to get it. Then they go to District 2 and they're trying to cause an avalanche down this massive mountain that is in the centre of town. And Katniss, after setting off this avalanche, realises that it's just like when her dad died in the mines. There's sirens going off. It's just innocent people. You don't know their story. You don't know why they're in this building, but they are, and it causes her to obviously miss her dad quite a lot, which is very, very sad. Because we obviously got a lot of mentions of Katniss's dad, but you don't have too many of her actually acknowledging that she misses him. Then we have Finnick and Annie's wedding, very cute, we love that. And Katniss saying, I don't have to pretend to be happy for them. So again, we've got Finnick being associated with these genuine moments of happiness for Katniss. And she dances with Prim, and Peter makes the cake. So I feel like this is just a really nice moment in the book. I really appreciated that being sprinkled in there. And then we've got just some quotes from Peter to Katniss. He says, I must have loved you a lot. And she says, you did. And then we have a moment where it says he started arguing with himself like he was two people, which is obviously Peter not being in one mind anymore. He doesn't know what's real and what's not, so he's trying to like argue with himself to figure out what the fuck is going on, which is really sad. And then when they're infiltrating the Capitol, we've got Finnick saying, ladies and gentlemen, let the 76th Hunger Games begin, which is obviously, as I said before, this is just another Hunger Games, and the whole of Panem is the arena, so that I just like that line. I think it's funny. And then finding out that Joanna in the Capitol was being tortured by them flooding her chambers and then electrocuting her. What the actual fuck? That is so brutal. That is horrible. Right, and so moving on from that, we go into part 3, which I think is called The Assassin. I'm never going to find it looking through the book, but I think it's called The Assassin. We've got Coin suddenly seeing Katniss as a threat and wanting her dead, and the way she thinks to do this is by sending Peter on this mission with her. That backfired, didn't it? So we've got Haymitch reminding Katniss of their deal to save Peter. This bit made me fucking sob. The entirety of the whole real or not real game that Peter plays just absolutely broke me. So we've got Katniss saying your favourite colour is green, and then, oh no, that's wrong completely. We've got Peter saying your favourite colour is green, and Katniss confirming that is real, and then reminding him his favourite colour is orange, like the sunset, and he like closes his eyes to try and picture it, because he doesn't even know what his favourite colour is anymore. It's really sad. We've got Boggs, who is the leader of this mission, accidentally dying and giving Katniss the Hollow, which is like this device that they use to navigate the Capitol safely. And Peter obviously lying and saying that he's done this because she's on a mission from Coin when she just blatantly isn't. We've got Peter saying that they should just kill him because he's accidentally killed one of their allies. I think it was Mitchell, maybe. And he thinks he's a monster and they should just kill him now because he's a threat to them. And this results in him saying, you're still trying to protect me, real or not real? And Katniss saying, real, because that's what you and I do. We protect each other. Again, make me sob. Then there's this whole section where Katniss can hear something like whispering her name, and Peter's like joining in whispering the name. And he suddenly like bolt upright, goes, you need to run, you're in danger. So we've got Peter warning Katniss of danger. And obviously this also has Finnick's death, which made me cry even more. I love Finnick. He's one of my favourite characters. I think my top 3 in this series has to be like Peter, Finnick, and Haymitch, I think would be my top 3. Is that a random amount of people to be my top 3? Is that like a random selection? Let me know if you get this far in the video. Who are your top 3 Hunger Games characters? Because I think that's mine. And then we've got Katniss saying to Peter, don't let him take you from me. Stay with me, which is obviously a reference to in Catching Fire when she's having nightmares. She says, stay with me, and he replies, always. Again, just making me cry for no reason. So rude. Then Katniss overhears Gale and Peter debating who she loves more, and Gale essentially says she'll decide based on who she thinks she needs to survive, which is kind of true. Then on their like final stretch to go and kill President Snow, Gale gets captured, then Prim gets killed by Gale's plan with the bombs, which obviously devastates Katniss. Then Snow, when Katniss wakes up from this explosion she's been included in, She ends up finding Snow in his like room full of roses, I think that's how I've interpreted it. I might have read it wrong. But Snow confirming that Coin is a bad person and that she is the real enemy, essentially. Like, Snow kills people, but he does it for reason, whereas Coin is just killing people. And then this is just a point that I wrote down, is that this whole trilogy of books was fucking pointless, because it obviously starts with Katniss volunteering to save Prim so she doesn't die, and then Prim dies anyway. I'd be so livid if I was Katniss that all of this has been for nothing. We get obviously a cameo from Effie. I loved that. I like Effie. Again, she's a really great character. So it was nice to see her. Then we have Coin suggesting a symbolic Hunger Games and getting previous victors to vote as to whether or not they should hold a Hunger Games involving the children of the leaders in the capital. And Katniss says yes. I believe this is entirely just to keep Coin on her good side, so that then when Katniss kills Coin, it's like she doesn't see it coming. But in this scene, we also have obviously Peter and Annie being like, no, absolutely not, that's a terrible idea. I thought we were doing all of this to stop the Hunger Games completely. Don't become like him and put on a new one. Which I agree with. I would have said no, obviously. And then after Katniss kills Coin, that's a tongue twister, they obviously put her on trial. She misses the whole thing, and it ends with Haymitch just coming into her room going, come on, we're going home, which, again, adorable. Love the father relationship that Haymitch has with her. And then eventually Peter also comes home to District 12, and he brings a bunch of primroses to honour Prim, which is so sweet. I love him for that. Obviously Prim's cat Buttercup ends up being there with them, and he guards Katniss, which I think is like a last tribute to this is what Prim would have wanted. I just fucking cried at the mention of Finnick and Annie's newborn son. That devastated me. And then, you know, as I said, very spoilery, so this is the most spoilery it's probably going to get. I'm just going to read the final few sentences, because they just absolutely fucking destroyed me. So, Peter and I grew back together. There are still moments when he clutches the back of a chair and hangs on until the flashbacks are over. I wake up screaming from nightmares of mutts and lost children, but his arms are there to comfort me, and eventually his lips. On the night I feel that thing again, the hunger that overtook me on the beach, I know that this would have happened anyway, that what I need to survive is not Gale's fire, kindled with rage and hatred. I have plenty of fire myself. What I need is the dandelion in spring, the bright yellow that means rebirth instead of destruction, the promise that life can go on no matter how bad our loss is, that it can be good again, and only Peter can give me that. So after, when he whispers, you love me, real or not real, I tell him real. Stop it. Stop. One thing I noticed throughout the whole series is Suzanne Collins knows how to end a chapter on a banger. Like, the final line of every chapter is an absolute banger. And that holds true for the final line of the entire series, which is we have the epilogue showing Katniss and Peter have had children and they're playing in the meadow, which Katniss reveals is obviously just a mass grave. And that she still has to play these games in her mind of trying to convince herself that she's not a bad person. And it ends with, but there are much worse games to play. And I just think that is so poetic and just such a beautiful line to end the whole series on. I forgot how good these books were when I read them last. So on this reread, essentially what my thoughts boil down to is, oh my god, this series is incredible. The writing is amazing. I think this is the best written trilogy or series ever. I've never read anything that has so many good setups and follow-throughs and cameos and things to just keep note of, because everything is relevant. Everything gets used eventually. So obviously I love this series. Every single book has managed to be a 5-star for me this read. I think it used to be that Catching Fire was my only 5-star and the other two were both 4 stars. But no, they are all 5-star reads for me now. And I know this is a really long video, so if you've made it this far, I thank you so much. I didn't realise how much of a video this was going to be going into it, but you know, I'm not going to not post it. I've put a week into this, so... But I really, truly hope you have enjoyed. Leave me a comment if you have enjoyed. Leave me, a like, subscribe. I can't promise I'll be doing massive videos like this all the time, but this was definitely a big one-off as a special event for Sunrise on the Reaping coming out, which if you would like to see me read that, it will be in next week's video where I read all of the new March releases that I'm interested in. So on that note, thank you for watching and I'll see you next week. Bye!